Hey guys, how are ya? Ruben Guzman here. Thank you again for tuning into the channel. For those of you who didn't know, of course, I am a matrix artist and I am an educator as well. So what I'm going to do today, if you guys have checked out my previous videos, I do a lot of how-tos, when, and whys. So in today's video, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about Balayage 101. One of my favorite things that a lot of people have been asking me, when are you going to do a video about it? We're super excited to see. We want to know your guys' technique. So of course, today I'm going to show you guys a quick crash course on how to achieve this look and make it super natural. All right. So a lot of times people are asking, what is balayaging? What is that? Because a lot of clients will come in and they'll show a photo and you'll be like, that's actually a balayage, not a highlight, right? So what we're going to talk about is just some few key points and some few things in regards to balayaging and what it is and what it entitles. So what is it? So it is actually a French term which means sweep, and sweeping in the sense of the way that you apply the color or your lightener. It's just the technique in which you apply your product. This here, why it's a good idea is because this service is customizable. So not every client is going to walk out with the exact same uniform style. You can definitely customize it based off of what it is that your client prefers. If they want more blonde, if they want to be a little bit more with depth. So it's very customizable. You guys can kind of play around because that head is going to be your canvas, right? This here is also surface painting. So it's not going to be a full saturation like you normally would do when you do a basic color application. This is going to be only thick enough with the product. And in a previous video, if you guys haven't checked me out already, I talked to you guys about some lightening products, also known as bleaches, right? Which everybody refers to as a bleach. So I show you guys how to mix it, what the proper ratios are going to be. But with this here, it's going to be a thick consistency, all right? Especially with us using the additives that we have on hand with our Lightmaster 8s, as well as our Lightmaster 8 bonder, okay? So this here is surface painting. Again, only on the surface of the hair that you're going to be working on. You're not going to be fully saturating it. Then it's also less maintenance for your guys' client. So if your client is coming in and they're wanting to do a highlight, after a few weeks, they're going to sit in the mirror and they're going to look at it and they're going to see that their new growth or their outgrowth is roughly about 1 inch to 1.5 inches, if not bigger. And then they're like, oh my God, I got to book that appointment to get the highlight, right? But if your client is coming from far away and you do have that traveling client, because I'm going to put it out there, you will have a traveling client that's going to come to you from either country or another state. They're going to want something that's going to be less maintenance because they can't make that commitment to coming and seeing you every few weeks, right? So what we're going to do is I'm going to kind of go over this entire slide. These here are just my first two that I've got for you guys. But the next time when I see you guys, it's going to be the application, ways that you guys can apply it. And we're going to do a quick little demo just so that way I can show you guys how to apply. Alright guys, so now what I managed to do is with the power of magic and TV, I went ahead and did a quick wardrobe change just so that way you guys could see the application process. And we're going to go over just the basic pattern on what I suggest that you guys can use, and then we'll just do a quick little mini demo. Again, I'm not going to go into full depth about the entire application process, the mixing ratios, what I mix. That's going to be for another video, so that way you guys have more insight on the product that I am using. So what I do have here is I do have the consistency that you need, which is going to be like a super thick, like, I don't want to say cake batter, but like almost like a clay consistency to where like if you flip it upside down, nothing is going to come out. All right. So inside there, I have my, I actually don't have the lightener or everything mixed in there only because, you know, I'm just going to show you guys a quick demo. But inside of there, it's a thick consistency. I would use my Lightmaster 8 as well as my freehand additive, which is going to kind of thicken it up a little bit just so that way you guys can do your application. All right, and it's not going to make it super wet to where it's going to saturate underneath. It's only going to coat the top. All right, so as far as your application goes, I have 3 different ways that you guys can do it. You can either do the slant, which is going to give you fairly a nice amount of lightening, but you're still going to have some depth inside of here. So this would be the section that's not touched, but everything in the blue would be what your application would be. We have the most standard V pattern, which is the one that everybody uses. I do a combination of all 3 depending on where it is that I want my light placement to be, where I really want to have that contrast, all right, and where I want to maintain some depth. So the V placement is going to be your most standard, okay? That's going to be just pretty much painting it into a V formation. And then you also have your W. Your W is going to give you maximum lightening on the very bottom, with very, very minimal contrast in the background. So you'll have a little bit of depth, but mostly blonding on the bottom. Now these here you would want to keep in mind when your clients show you your photos of what it is that they want to actually look like. You can kind of see in the picture, all right, does that model have mostly blonde on the bottom? Does she have a little bit more darkness, a little bit more depth? So you can kind of play around with using actually all three patterns, which is totally up to you, okay? Now the way that we're going to be applying this is I like to stick to a brick laid pattern for the simple reason I like it to be kind of like sporadic. I don't want it to have like solid lines going all the way across. So what you would do is you would section your client off into 3 sections, okay? You have your 2 sides, so you're gonna part it right down the middle, or however they wear their hair. If they wear a side part, you're gonna part it there. And then your entire back section is gonna be a section all on its own. So back here, don't make fun of the drawings, okay? So on the back section here, this is the back of my client's head. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna start off with 2 diagonals, which is gonna create that V in the back. Then we're gonna go into a horizontal, which is going to be that dotted line that you guys can see here. So I kind of put like a little color code key, just so that way you guys can keep, you know, follow along as we're doing the application, okay? And then of course we have the side of our head. Now this is an image on just one side, but you're gonna wanna repeat the same pattern on the opposite side as well, okay? So let's get into this quick little application. So I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna move this little camera down just a little bit so that way you guys can see. Okay, so here we have our lovely modal. And what I did was I already kind of sectioned her out into 3 sections. So I have my 2 in the sides, and then I have my 1 section all the way in the back. All right. So what you do is you want to first start them off with creating a V in the back of the head. So here I already kind of carved it out. So I'm going to take this V now, and I'm going to split this into 2 sections. So these are going to be 2 totally different playing grounds that we're going to be working on. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this first piece here, and I want to make sure that you comb her out very nice and smooth. All right, make sure you get any little flyaways or anything out of the way. And then while you comb it, you want to make sure you hold it very nice and taut. All right, so it's going to be super, super taut here. Taut meaning that you want to kind of keep a little bit of tension. You don't want it to be too wonky and loose, because if I left it loose and I go to apply my product, it's just going to kind of get everywhere and it's going to be messy. All right, so we're just going to do a very light taut here, creating a little bit of that tension. And then when I put my product on my brush, I'm only going to scoop out just a small little bead of product. So just like this, all right? You don't want to scoop out that product, because then it's going to be very, very messy, and then your application is going to look a hot mess, all right? So again, very light little bead on the end of my brush, all right, like you guys can see here. And then what we're going to do is, instead of me going straight in on here, I'm going to hold my brush on a slight angle, and I'm going to start creating a V. I'm going to work on the very bottom. Now, of course, you guys want to make sure you guys are going to wear gloves while you guys are doing this. All right. So here we have just a very light stroking, as you guys can see. All right. Super, super light. I don't want to be super heavy when you guys are applying it, because I want to make sure I have a really good blend. Again, very small little bead. Working on the side here. And you want to make sure that your product that you're putting on there, it's got to be thick. You don't want it to be super, super wet, because if it's too wet, what's going to happen is you're going to get that full saturation on the very bottom. And if they only want to have just that very light sun-kissed effect, then you just want to make sure that you only paint the top surface. So here I'm going to show you guys, let me finish out this little section here. All right, fully saturated, super white with the product. All right, very lightly brushing it on there. And you see that I'm holding my brush vertically. I'm not holding it horizontally. If I did horizontally, it's going to create a harsh line. Holding it vertically, you have control as to how high, how low, and you can also kind of blur out any of these harsh points that you've created. Now, the reason why it's called surface painting, guys, is because you're only painting the surface here. If I were to lift this up, see, there's no product on the bottom. It's only coating the top section, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna finish this out. I'm gonna coat the rest of this here, and then I'm gonna drag it down to the very ends, making sure that my tips are fully, fully saturated. You guys see that? Full saturation. I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side. Oh, sorry. First drop, guys, first drop. I'm going to take my next section and I'm going to comb this out, making sure that it's super, super neat and clean. This is another mannequin from one of my students, so she might be a little crunchy. All right. So here, I'm gonna stand on this side so that way you guys can see now the application, okay? So I'm gonna hold this here. I'm gonna take my brush with my product. I'm going to lightly start from the bottom and slowly work my way up. Holding my brush on a slant, all right? I'm holding it vertically so that way I can control how high and how low I'm making it. All right, now if you guys are doing your application, all right, and you guys notice that, oh man, I put a big glob right there, how do I blur it out? You guys can always take your brush and just go upwards. And that's gonna blur out beautifully so that way you don't have any of those harsh lines in there. Now, as you're brushing it up, you're gonna notice that, okay, some of the hair is starting to get a little bit teasy, which is totally fine because that's gonna create more of a natural blend when you guys get ready to shampoo out your client. And you can see that gorgeous melt when you guys are working, okay? So here I have these two sections, all right? Beautifully coated, nothing on the bottom, all right? Again, it's only on the top. Now there's several things that you guys can do. You guys can either use what we have, which is called balayage film, which is more of like a plastic wrap that you guys can buy at your local beauty supply. And it's just very thin sheets that you guys can kind of place on there. Now, the cool thing about having the balayage film is that you guys can actually watch to see how light you're getting. And if you're doing that, would I recommend using the freehand additive? You can, but honestly, I like to open air process my balayage only because I like it to be more of that gradual, natural, sun-kissed effect. And it's a little bit more gradient, all right? Now, are you gonna have that huge contrast of super platinum blonde when your client's dark at the top? Not necessarily, all right? You're just gonna have that very gradual effect. So this here's your diagonals. Your next parting, of course, is gonna be your horizontals, all right? So when you do your horizontal, you're just going to take it straight across. Right across here. All right, straight across. And then this is going to be your next panel that you're going to be working on. All right. Now the cool thing about the clay additive and using the freehand additive is that it's not going to make this on the very bottom super, super wet. So when I lay this part down, it's not going to color anything on the bottom of here. It's only still going to stay on the top. Okay. I'm gonna do a dance with our mannequin here. All right, so here we have her again. Again, I'm going to make sure I comb this out. Make sure you get any knots and tingles out of the way. We're gonna angle this down just a little bit. Taking my product on my brush. Again, only the tips. You want it to be very, very little. And then you're going to paint same way you did the top. You're gonna do the V. Working your way up. And you're gonna do the same thing on this other side here, the other side of your strands. Creating that beautiful blend. Now guys, don't be scared to put product on here, all right? Again, you want it to be thick. You want to have that nice coating on there while you're working. Now, like I said, you can either incubate it by using a foil if you wanted. You can use mesh sheets. Like I said, I like to open air mine, meaning I just kind of like to let it hang out and do its thing. But it's totally up to you. Of course, maximum lightning, if you want it to be pretty, pretty bright, you can go ahead and use foils. You can use your balayage film and encapsulate it so that way it'll process and do its thing, okay? But this here, again, simple pattern on the very bottom. You did your diagonals, you did your horizontal. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna repeat that all the way up the head. So we're gonna repeat that pattern. So diagonals, horizontals, working your way up until you get to the very top, okay? Super simple pattern, very easy to give you some of that natural lightning look, and just still kind of having some of that warm tips, but still dark rootage, okay? Once you get to the side, you're gonna do the same thing here. You're going to do your horizontal diagonals. So when you do your diagonals, you're gonna wanna do those towards the face. Why do you do it towards the face? Because I feel like doing it towards the face, you're gonna have more of that high-low effect to where it's gonna create that perfect blend going into the back. But you're also gonna create those individual little money pieces, those very light highlights that your clients are gonna wanna see when they get in the front. Because let's think about it. When they get their hair done, what do? They're doing this in the mirror, right? Super easy. So what you wanna do is you wanna make sure that you get maximum lightening in the front and some lightening in the back. Maybe not as much as you would in the front, but your clients definitely wanna make sure that they kind of look uniform all the way around, all right? So that's the simple application. And then let's get into the finished product. And there we have it, guys. Very super easy, simple technique that I hope was helpful, that you guys can go ahead and create beautiful balayages. Now let's get into just a little bit tidbit of some quick finishing. So what I like to do is I like to finish out my mannequin, or my client, I would say, my clients, with a little bit of a styling aid. So you can either curl it, straighten it, whichever you prefer, put a beautiful braid in it. I love to simply curl my balayages. So what I have here is I have my finished look. I'm gonna go ahead and spray her with just a little bit of holding spray, just so that way I can maintain those curls, okay? And here we have this beautiful model. As you guys can see, beautiful curls. What we did was we went ahead and curled her. I used my flat iron to create a little bit more of a ribbon curl for her. Again, I don't like to create ringlets. I like it to be a little bit more wavy. So then what I'm do is, after I spray these to kind of set my curls, I'm gonna take my wide tooth part of a feather comb, as you guys can see here, right? Wide teeth of a feather comb. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm just gonna comb these beautiful curls out. This is gonna create a very natural, beachy style. You can see that beautiful melt of that gorgeous balayage. You have your highlights of your warmth as well as your darkness. Gorgeous, gorgeous work. All right, beautiful balayage here. Gorgeous model. I like it because she doesn't talk back. I'm totally kidding. All right, super cute work here, guys. Beautiful. I went ahead, like I said, I just went in and I styled it with just a little bit of some spray, just so that way it'll help me hold those curls. We did flat iron curls here, so that way you can create that little beachy wave effect on the very bottom. Beautiful, beautiful work. And I can guarantee you guys that when your client gets done and you guys finish her out and she's sitting in your chair, she is going to be super excited with the final end results, all right? Again, this here was a quick little tidbit. Thank you guys for tuning in. I would love to see your guys' work. So if you guys figure that this technique helped you guys a little bit and you guys are super excited to get out there, I would love to see your guys' work. So if you guys could, I'm gonna give you a little bit of homework. You guys can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. It's all gonna be at Hair by Rue. I'm trying to get a little bit more better at this whole Twitter tweeting thing, but you guys could definitely check me out on Instagram and Facebook. If you guys have any questions about anything, feel free to reach out to me. And until then, I'll see you guys in the next video, and you guys have a wonderful evening. Bye.